Hello and welcome to the Mystic Nerd Squad podcast, where I host candid conversations for the curious. I'm your host, Kelly Meyerson, original Mystic Nerd. And this morning, I am joined by my guest, Ahriana Platten. Dr. Ariana Platten is an international speaker, author, and courage builder. We all need more of that. She helps people find their purpose and live into it. She's a master ceremonialist and practical mystic, widely appreciated for her authenticity, her professional insights, and her coaching on the process of change. You can find more about Ariana at asoulfulworld.com. Good morning and welcome. I am so excited for our conversation today. Our topic is change. And when Ariana reached out to me and she was interested in talking about change, I had a total nerd out moment. I was like, oh, I love talking about change. So without any further ado, Ariana, welcome to the Mystic Nerd Squad podcast. And I'll let you take it away.
Well, thank you very much. I am delighted to be here with you this morning, Kelly, and excited to talk about this subject because the world is a really different place right now. We are in change. We are in the middle of change. We're not at the beginning of change and we're not at the end of change. We're right in the middle of change. And that can feel really uncertain for people and a little bit ungrounding and unsettling. And so I'm just excited about shifting some perspectives and inviting us all to consider that change can be a really positive thing.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm sort of one of those outliers in terms of change. When things change, I thrive. So I'm more like curious, excited, like what is the possibility? But I'm sure for a lot of people listening with us now or catching us later, change feels very overwhelming. So how do we navigate that?
Well, I think I'd like to start with what you just said. You mentioned something that I think we miss in the whole scope of conversation about change, which is that change leads to infinite possibilities. That there are massive directions that we can go, and most of us have seen that kind of little thing you do with your hands, where you say, if change starts back here 10 years from now, how broad will the change be? When we're looking retrospectively, I think there's value in giving consideration to how wide the field of possibility is. And also there's a lot of science about change. I really lean more towards the spirituality of change, that we brought our souls here to evolve, to grow, to learn, to experience. And that as our souls express here, if things didn't change, all of those things would be hard to accomplish.
Okay, so you took it to a much bigger, broader feeling. So some people might have been hopping on like, okay, change. Yeah, things change. And then I roll with it and I go, but the possibility that change is part of the process of growing as a soul and a being who's here at this place in time. And this is the moment when I begin to really nerd out, because this is the fun and exciting piece of things, that in the experience of change, there is this wider field of possibilities.
Correct. And one of those possibilities, there's a lot of science. I just said I wasn't going to talk about science, but there's a lot of science to back this up. One of the possibilities is that we are interconnected through a quantum energy field, that and science is doing this massive and amazing exploration of our interconnection with each other, with all things on the planet, with all things in the universe. That's where I nerd out. The idea that if I sneeze here, it affects a butterfly in China is, those things they're fascinating, and you can go really far down that rabbit hole. But I'd like to start our conversation today with the assumption that we are somehow all interconnected. and that how we interact and what happens on the planet makes a difference. And so when things change, everyone is in that field together. There's, we have individual change, we have family and group dynamics, then we have societal change. And what we're in right now is global change. Change that is obviously brought on by our shared experience of the pandemic, by the kind of the whole political arena around all of that, and also by our caring and our loss and our grief through this experience.
Yeah. And I mean, when you say that, it makes me think about how grief has been such a huge shared experience for so many people across the globe, that it really has been an event that has impacted everyone on some level.
Yeah, at this point, I don't think there's anybody who hasn't, in one way or another, had to confront loss, or at least the worry. That to be in an ongoing state of concern about the people that you love and the people that you know, and even to be in an ongoing state of concern about how we work together and how we do the things that we used to do with ease that are now much more complicated because we can't be within a certain amount of space. I mean, just the simple act of hugging each other is not available in the way that it was. So that's a pretty dramatic change. It causes us to, and if you think about change, really, it's an inside job, right? It's inside here. We're changing, regardless what the exterior provocation is. We're changing in our soul and changing how we think and changing how we do things. But I think one of the things we fail to remember is that we're masters at it. We've been doing it our whole life.
Yeah. So how does somebody start with that? Let's imagine someone is feeling overwhelmed and out of control. Like, I know that is a big thing for so many people because, taking this as an example, we haven't been able to decide how we spend our time. We can't be close to people. We've had to shift just the very basic way that we're existing and living our lives. So, like, if you're feeling stuck in the middle of that, what is the first step or something you could offer them for how to begin to look to possibility?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, in your very first step is finding yourself in the place you are right now. Like, notice the feet on the ground, notice the fabric of your clothing against your skin. Recognize where you are right now and ask yourself, in this moment, am I safe? Am I safe right now? Most of the time we can say yes. If the answer is no, there's an action to take to make us safe. And there are things that we can't move through quickly. If you are struggling with someone who's in the hospital with COVID, you may not feel safe right now, and that would be the healthy, correct response.
Right? Yes.
Like, if there's a real reason you don't feel safe, you're not doing anything wrong. It's not your job to make yourself pretend that you feel different. You're in the middle of a crisis moment, and your body will move you through it with all of the different biological mechanisms that we have. And one of those is a sense of fear that kind of heightens our awareness and makes us pay attention. And that's valuable. We're programmed to do that. If you are not in that critical moment, but you're feeling unnerved by life right now, a lot of what helps is to get into this present moment and concentrate on being right here, right now. In this place, in this moment, you're breathing, you have a roof over your head, you have clothing to wear, you have food to eat, you are in a safe space. And if you're in that safe space, there's great importance in acknowledging in your soul, this moment, I'm safe. When we we really are talking to ourselves, aren't we? To all the layers of ourselves that have struggled with whatever is going on in our lives. So finding one safe moment is a very small and really important and valuable place to begin. And then being able to say, in this safe space where I know I'm not threatened by anything, what can I do for me right now?
Mm.
What do I need? Do I need food? Do I need exercise? Do I need water? Do I need to distract myself for a short period because I've been down this rabbit hole for too long and my
Yeah.
mind doesn't, sometimes we have to do that. And kind of normalizing the process of change with ourselves is valuable. We have been changing from the very moment we took our first breath. We have been changing. We have gone from not breathing to
Mm-hmm.
breathing.
Mm-hmm.
We have
That's
gone
true.
from, right? We have
Mm-hmm.
gone from not seeing to seeing. We have gone from being nice and tight to being open and flailing. And
Mm.
everything about us changes every single day for the rest of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Our bodies change, our minds change, our ability to express and receive emotional gratification changes. All of that. We are such pros
Mm-hmm.
at change. We just don't recognize how good we are at it because we've been doing it so well all these years.
Mm. I absolutely love that. So we can all compliment ourselves for getting to this point, right? We've rolled with the change. I really love what you said about establishing that sense of safety through grounding and feeling, in your body. And then as a second step, what do I need? Because I think that's such a beautiful practice in self-care. And we hear a lot about self-care. That's become kind of a buzzword, which
Mhm.
can encompass a lot of different things. But at the very heart of caring for oneself is that, okay, step one, I'm safe. I'm thinking of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right?
Absolutely.
We can't get to those higher levels of accepting things if we haven't established that baseline of safety. And then taking that next step of, if I'm still feeling some level of discomfort, addressing what I need, being in that present moment. And I think that is such a beautiful practice. That's something that I've put into place in my own life. And I've heard someone else talk about it, like talking to yourself like you're a child, like, darling, what is it that you need? And really
Beautiful.
listening for the response from your body, your inner intuition, your soul. What is it that you need? I love that. And sometimes
Right.
it's like, oh my gosh, I haven't had something to eat. I'm not sleeping well enough. I need some distraction. I'm so glad you brought that up, because a lot of times people can feel like it's not okay to be distracting ourselves from what's really going on. But sometimes a little bit of self-care in the act of giving yourself a break and enjoying something is okay, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to mention too, you brought in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I read some interesting background on Maslow's work a couple of years ago and actually did some pretty significant teaching around it. Maslow believed that you could move between the levels.
Mm.
Someone else interpreted his work and said, if you don't have this bottom rung, which is your kind of place of safety, then you can't move up into other levels of work. And that isn't what
Mm.
Maslow originally taught. He originally taught that we could move between those levels. And it's an important distinction because that myth tells us, oh my gosh, I'm not safe. So I can't move
Mm.
into spiritual consideration. I can't move up into any level of really higher thinking and higher consideration because of this loss. And I just want to take a minute to debunk that and say you can be in a state of crisis and still, by using techniques like your breath, like settling, even like distraction, you can bring yourself back to a place of safety. And that what happens in your body is that once you go into a state of worry and crisis and you feel a threat, and let's just face it, folks, like death has been knocking on our door for a year and a half now.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
there's not much more threatening than that. But
Mm.
brain science tells us that when we're in certain states of fear, the analytical part of the brain does not work very well.
No.
because the oxygenated blood in our body is going out to our limbs so that we can run or we can fight, right? And so, this step of finding yourself in safety and telling your body and your mind, I'm safe right now, is actually really, really important to having all of your brain function to deal with whatever it is that you have happening in your life.
Yeah. Well, I love this because I just totally nerded out on what you said about Maslow, and I'm like, okay, can we go down that rabbit hole of
Yeah.
what did Maslow say about his hierarchy of needs? So I'm
Yeah.
sensing that that pyramid is not true, that it's more a dynamic process than a shifting between. I'm not sure what that diagram really should look like. Maybe it's something we
Yeah.
can't really put in a 2D perspective, but
Right.
I love that. And what I was thinking as you were saying that is that sometimes the route to, moving into those higher levels is not establishing just that safety, but it's going into more of the spiritual realm of who we are as human beings, and giving us that place of, like, sometimes your safety comes from having a higher purpose, and sometimes, feeling good in
Yeah.
your body is about those pieces of things versus having to, like, okay, I can't get any of that until I have a better house, or I can't get any of that
Mm-hmm.
until I feel great in my skin. And I also love what you talked about in terms of that fight or flight response. And I've noticed people existing in that state so frequently, a lot of times because we're not in imminent danger necessarily, but our bodies and our circuitry doesn't know the difference between what is an actual unsafe moment right now
Correct.
and what we're playing in our mind, because we are timeless. We're not existing in that way. Our body doesn't know time. Our body knows what is presented to us, whether it's visibly in front of us or actually occurring in our mind. So yeah, this is all such great information for people, because I think understanding the underlying reason why you feel the way you do, even if you're not experiencing those imminent, pieces of danger in your life right now, but
Right.
why your body works that way. Why our primitive brain, we were designed to be able to fight or flee, and, like you said, get that oxygenated blood out of your brain and into your body to run
Right.
so you don't get eaten by a dinosaur or whatever predator at that time. But
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't really always serve us right now.
Well, and you mentioned just for a moment there the idea of purpose, and I want to
Mm,
speak to that for a minute and kind of go off on a little spiritual tangent here, and just share a little bit about my personal belief. It is my personal belief that, as a theologian, that we are not here by accident, that we
mhm,
came here on purpose, that we had choice in coming here. We were not just dismissively sent, but we had choice in coming here, and that something very, very powerful and amazing is happening on our planet right now. And
mm,
that powerful and amazing shift that we're making is going to affect a lot of people in the future. So having a sense that you are connected with everything, and that the courage that you're gaining in moving through this will allow us as a race, to, as members of our world, as a global people, to make huge change,
mm,
to live it. We've been saying, for how many years have we been saying, we need, this world really needs to change. We
mhm,
need to come back to our hearts. We need to reconnect with each other. We need the arts to be reinvigorated. We need something that makes us feel alive, rather than we need to keep working harder and harder and harder so somebody else can make more and more money. And all of that,
mm,
if you look at our world, what we're going through right now requires us to come back to our hearts. We're being hit with grief,
mm,
we're being hit with loss. It is literally, for many of us, tearing our heart open.
mm,
And we are coming to a deeper awareness of how much we value the people in our lives by the fact that they have been for long periods of time unavailable to us. So we're in a different heart space, and millions of people are leaving their jobs because they're not willing to work this hard. They want to come into a world that makes sense and feels sane. And so businesses are having to shift. Everything is having to shift. All of that is in response, I believe, to our readiness to live in a different way.
Yeah.
And yes, it's a bumpy, messy, uncomfortable ride.
Yeah.
But it's, in the grand scheme of things, in the millions of years that the earth has been, and in the hundreds of thousands of years that there have been humans on the planet, where we can trace our history, this is really literally in a couple of years has the potential to pull the Band-Aid off and get us to come back to ourselves and our humanity. And that's a powerful, important purpose to a very challenging time.
Yeah.
And important for us to, in the world of infinite possibility, important for us to consider that the parts that we're playing in this changing time, we came here to do, and we're strong enough to do.
Yeah. So what's a way that we can tune into, like, what is my purpose? I'm thinking, I've recognized in myself part of my purpose, part of my reason for doing this podcast is to shine a light on people like yourself who are really orchestrating and supporting others in being part of this change and in seeing the possibilities. So how does someone understand or get in tune with their own purpose?
It's such a great question. Our idea of purpose on this planet has become whatever we do for a living. Whatever our purpose is to work. And I just can't step into believing that would be the in the ultimate state of the universe, that's what we're here for.
Right.
We are here to grow our souls. We are here to grow our souls through first our inner focus, our ability to discipline our minds and to clear our heads and to love more openly. And when we love more openly, when we love more fully, everything changes. Our ability to deal with the biggest problems in society will shift dramatically when our effort is to love and be kind and care for each other, as opposed to judge each other, choose punishments for each other, that whole kind of spectrum we have for dealing with problems. It's by the very nature of the fact that we consider it a problem rather than an opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I think it's simple enough and universal enough. The idea of just being openly loving.
Mm-hmm.
How amazing.
My niece is she's working out every day, and she does all of her work on Instagram, and every day she posts a little tag on her workout video, and it says 1% better. And I watch it every day, and I think that is such a beautiful thing. Like, you don't have to open your heart and gush all over everything, because some of us are just not gushy people and others of us are, right? But to be 1% better at being kind, to delay judgment and work to replace it with discerning, right? Judgment will tell us that's wrong, this is right. Discerning will say, what is the opinion on that side that makes that right for them? I want to understand. I actually want to understand so I can discern where I stand on this spectrum. And being able to just slow down one little bit and ask yourself, what would love do? How would love respond in this moment of crisis? How would love respond in fear? And coming back to what you said about self-care, being not only kind and loving out, but being kind and loving in. Because this really is completely an inner job. It's One of the greatest pieces of work that we're doing here is mastering ourselves and
Mm,
choosing who we will be in a wide variety of circumstances.
hmm.
Who am I in this moment? Am I love? Am I fear? Am I grace? How am I showing up in this moment? And can I make it authentically what I want to be out there? Can I feel it authentically here? And I really want to, because you and I talked in a past conversation about toxic positivity,
Mm.
I really want to throw in that I am not suggesting that we just blanket everything in positivity. Anything is
Sprinkle the
possible.
fairy dust.
It's all good.
No. Yeah.
And that it is important that we consider that there could be good coming from any challenging moment. There could be good coming out of that that we can't see yet. And good and bad, good and difficult, let's say it that way, good and difficult are not mutually exclusive,
Yeah.
meaning we can have a difficult experience. Monday is the anniversary of the loss of my father. It's an
Mm.
incredibly challenging loss for me. And the good that has come out of that is a deeper knowing of my father and a way of embodying in myself what I believe my father stood for. So I am a better person for having gone through that process.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that I'm not sad, because,
Right.
right, we're sad about the loss. And balance allows us to see that this was hard and this is what came from it.
Yes. I love that, and I've heard it looked at as both and. So this can be both difficult and good when we can take it in its context and we can learn and grow from it. I just want to hop back to something you said because it was a huge light bulb moment for me. When you said in a moment when we're feeling struggle or we're feeling a response coming on, asking ourselves, what would love do here? And I feel like that is such a beautiful, simple, maybe even a 1% type tool, like just pausing in that moment to say, what would love do here? How do I love more here? And I think that opens it up without it being overwhelming, because if people are anything like me, I'm like, okay, love everywhere. Where am I putting love in every single ounce of my life and everything I do? And then it's overwhelm, right? So it's
Right.
just take one moment, one challenging moment, and interject that idea. And you talked a little bit after that about, that you're feeling well and being in that moment is sort of important. So it almost kind of linked us right back to self-care. If you were taking the time for the self-care for yourself, then your ability to slow down, not be reactive, and to be able to make that split decision, that little choice in those moments is is going to be so much easier for you.
Yeah, and it can be really challenging, Kelly, because we're dealing with lots of different biological factors. So if you're stressed, you're waking up in the middle of the night. Cortisol is hitting you, and your body is pulling itself out of bed at 3 a.m., and you're not sleeping well, and then you're more emotional during the day, and that causes you to be less able to pull up the resources that you might have if you were better rested. If
Mm,
we're stressed and uncomfortable and not sleeping well, our digestive systems don't work as well. We're not as hungry. We don't eat as well. We're more likely to snack on crap food and all of that. And so our body doesn't get the nutrition it needs to create all of the things that have to happen in our body for us to think well. This is a challenging time, folks. This is not an easy time. This is a time that we came for because we could make dramatic change. And we came willing to move through the bumpy road.
mm,
So, there's a huge difference between walking through life as a victim of life or walking through with the idea that you made a choice to be here.
Mm.
If we believe we're a victim to the universe, first of all, that's in complete opposition to what most of us believe about God. God is all that is, great spirit, universe, whatever you want to call that holy source, which I often just refer to as the holy. And it's, we have lots of different definitions of that. But what is common in our definitions is we believe the holy has our back.
Right.
Right? Otherwise,
Right.
what's the point? Like we believe the holy has our back. So if we understand that the universe is supporting us as we move through, and we understand that we came here by choice, on purpose, to move the to move humanity into a better place, it makes what we're going through a little bit less uncertain, right? Where we have, it's still uncertain what will happen next, but something good is happening, as difficult as it might seem. And that's all of that kind of juxtaposition of difficulty and massive change. Like, it's hard when you go to a restaurant and there's not a waiter, but think about the fact that those people are brave enough to change the face of our economic world.
Yeah.
We can be patient and wait a few minutes in gratitude for the people that are working really hard to serve us, and also in gratitude for the massive and dynamic change that's happening on our planet. And we can be part of that. When I went to Hungary a few years ago, I had coffee with a friend, and I expected to walk in and get coffee and to be able to, we would grab our coffee cup and go back to what we were doing. And she said, we don't serve coffee in to-go cups. we don't do that here.
I love it.
You have to sit down, and having coffee is a thing. It's something that you do together. And the folks that I was with, the Hungarians that I was with, were kind of appalled at even the suggestion that we would take our coffee somewhere, because culturally it's so different there. So how is it healing to the American culture when we sit a few minutes longer when we go out, when we have a few more minutes to face connect, to chat with one another, to find that, again, that place where we can apply love in each other's lives.
Well, I'm thinking, just listening to, coffee became a verb and not a noun. Something you do and engage in with other people versus something you grab and go. And that's a big shift in perspective, for many of us who are fast forwarding through some of these moments that are the beautiful moments in life for us. Yeah, that just kind of hit me over the head. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I love that you said fast forwarding, and that kind of brings us full circle back to the being in the present moment. And I want to shift gears just a little bit with you, if it's okay.
Absolutely.
And I want to talk about our children.
Yes,
and I want
please.
to speak to what change is for our kids right now. It's really important for us to understand that we are programming our children's minds with our conversation. The narrative that we have about life is planted in our children's head and becomes the safekeeping voice in their head. If we tell our children, don't touch the stove, it's hot, something in their later adult mind says, don't touch that. That looks like a stove. That could be hot.
Right.
So our voice becomes the voice in the children's head as they grow older, that tells them what is right and what is wrong. So we have a tremendous amount of doomsday conversation in our society right now that says, gosh, I don't even know if I want to have kids because the world is a mess. And, climate change and economics and bipolarity, all that craziness is, why would I want to bring kids into a world? So now we have I don't know if I want to bring them in. And then the second conversation, which is, I feel so bad that I'm turning this world over to my children. I don't know even what tools to give them to get through this world. We don't have answers to these problems. What's going to happen to my kids and grandkids? And our kids are exposed to that message as we talk to one another. They see it on television. There is so much doomsday negativity in our narrative right now that I have kids. My kids range from my youngest, who is 19, to my oldest, who is 40. And my oldest has said to me, "You told me the world was going to be different than this, Mom." And he's absolutely right. Because the world has changed a lot in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
So I wrote a book about change for children to invite parents to talk about change, to really talk about the positivity of change. The change can be a good thing. And what I want to offer parents is a consideration. What I can do and what I have done in our world is different than what my parents were able to do, because the world changed. I could just go to my mom. My mother grew up in the 50s. Just what she was allowed to do was dramatically different. The problems in the 50s were not the same as the problems we have now. In the 50s and 60s, we were dealing with, getting under your desk. So in case there was a bombing and nuclear war and Vietnam and all of those things. Now we're in an entirely different set of problems, different set of considerations for life. And I have tools for this time in life that my mother does not have, because she grew up in a different time. Our children have answers inside of them that need to mature. And as they grow up, if we cultivate their imagination and their sense of capability, you can do things you can't even imagine. You are capable of things I can't even imagine, because you came here with a whole different set of tools. And you will create a different world, and you will solve many of the problems that we don't know how to solve, because you came here to do that. And again, they came here at this time for a reason.
Right.
So for us to cultivate in them a belief that change can be a positive thing, that they have good, brilliant ideas, and that they should be thinking and imagining what possibilities are out there. I just think of the guy, that high school student who built the machine that can float around the ocean and collect trash.
Yes. Amazing.
High school student, right?
Why not?
So when it comes to living in a world of change, it's really important to remember as parents, our children are not here as victims either. They came for a reason, and they have good work to do. And our job as parents is to grow in them the ability that they can do that good work, and to encourage them to grow their imagination, because good ideas come from a divine source. And when you open your mind to possibility, good ideas can flow in and actually become manifest in the world that we live in.
Yeah. I think that is such beautiful and heartfelt advice. Speaking as a parent, and I know other parents just feeling the overwhelm sometimes of, how do I make all this okay for my kid or my kids? How do I handle this? So I think giving them a little more credit that their souls are here for a purpose at this specific moment in time, and that there may be tools that are not yet available or known, but they could be coming. And they are likely going to solve some of these issues and maybe create a world better than it's ever been before.
And we're so good at saying, if we can't think of the solution, there isn't one. But the reality is, the entire existence of humanity has been breaking that, right? The entire myth of our society is, if we don't have the answer, there isn't an answer. Of course there's an answer. It isn't always our work to bring the answer forward. Sometimes the work belongs to a different generation. And when you think about all the conversation even that we have about, our kids, they're lost in their screens, they're this, they're that. Those tools that they have that are not necessarily our inherent tools, or the tools that we relate to the most. Those tools that they have, even the idea of virtual reality allows them to play out different possibilities for life, to imagine something different, to grow in possibility of technological advancements and other kinds of advancements. And so we have to be very careful how we project into the future, how we judge what's happening right now. Two things are happening. We're making massive, probably way more than two, but we're making massive technological leaps. And at the same time, we're going through some of the richest, most powerful challenges of the heart that we've ever had, and being invited to come back to each other and to come also to those expressions. I mentioned art earlier, those expressions that nourish our soul, music and dance and painting and coffee with one another, right? Real interaction, real artful, skillful communication and opening. So we can have our hearts open and we can make technological advancements at the same time. They, again, are not mutually exclusive. And our children can bring to the table answers that we can't even imagine yet. If we remind them that they're capable of that and let them know how proud we are that they are here doing their good work and how important they are in the world that we're sharing.
Yeah. I think you have brought so much inspiration and hope this morning. And, to anybody listening, after this has been recorded live, I think this has been a really important conversation about change and shifting into thinking about children. The tools that you've offered here are just absolutely wonderful and completely accessible. So if you listened all the way through, go back and listen again and pick up each of these tools, because they are literally going to change your perspective. And that is a huge piece of the puzzle. I just wanted to give you a little bit of time to talk about your free gift that you're offering to the listeners. And then I want to know all about what's coming up for you and how people can connect more with you and your community and world.
That's awesome. Thank you for that invitation. The meditation that I'm offering you is a meditation for change. And you can watch it with your eyes open and watch the little beautiful mandala spin, or you can just close your eyes and listen. It's a short 9-minute meditation that is really designed to speak to your conscious mind, but also to your subconscious mind. It's designed to help you remember all the processes of change that you've been through and all the skills that you have to change, so that your subconscious mind can stop warning you. Oh my gosh, warning, Will Rogers, you are going through change. Yes, we are. So it will help you find that right now moment of safety. And it's very easy to listen to. So that will be available for you in the show notes. I am launching a place called an online global community called A Soulful World. And we will have our soft launch of our website on the 10th. So we're coming up just a little more than a week from now. You'll be able to get online there and look at the works of our faculty. We have a curated faculty right now of 15 people who are all people I know well and personally, who are amazing teachers. So much like you, my work is to lift up for people where they can find good information to help them handle the challenges of their lives. So I invite you to just give us another week and then jump on and take a look at A Soulful World. For today, also in the show notes will be the link to take you to the Soulful Facebook page. And that is a community that will eventually move to the website. So go get on Facebook with us. You'll get an idea of who we are and what we're doing. the biggest thing I have coming up is Envision 2022, which is a uh, kind of New Year's preparation summit. And that's happening December 16th, 17th, and 18th. It'll be online in Zoom, also available as a recorded program. There's 12 hours of interaction with panels of instructors who are really talking through in a much deeper way some of the things that we have touched on today. The first day we'll talk about what kind of where we've been, what's happened for us, what do we know has shifted, what promises did we make for ourselves for our life, New Year's resolutions and all of those types of promises that we really need to let go of because the world isn't the same. And how do we do that without struggling with the loss? The second day, we will go through actual releasing processes to clear the deck, to open up, bless you, whoever that was.
That was my husband in the background. This is live, guys.
That's right. To open up to whatever is the possibility. And then on the third day, we'll actually step into opening wider the imagination we have. How do we open up to allow ourselves to receive divine inspiration and find answers we might not find otherwise? So I'm excited about those 3 days. It's 4 hours a day, 10 to 2 if you're in Mountain Zone, and you can adjust from there.
Sure.
But I'm excited to be in live space with folks again, and excited to work with a panel of amazing spiritual educators who really just have so much to offer. So you can find all of those links in the show notes, and I'm not hard to find. I'm easy to find on the internet.
No, and yes, it is very easy to find you, and you're going to want to. So thank you so very much.
Oh, other side. I want to do this.
This is the book?
That is the cover you're looking for, and you can see the light is kind of bright. But it's called The Changing Story.
I love
and
it.
It's available all over at any bookseller. You can get it on Amazon. But I want to say this much about that book, Kelly. In the back, what is unusual about this book is that, first of all, the story was given to me by a river. And it's a beautiful story of changing, how a mountain moves all the way down to sand at the seashore, and all the different changes that it takes to make that happen. And in the back of the book is a symbology glossary. So I raised 4 boys. You've raised kids yourself. You know that if they find a favorite book, you're going to read it 700 times. So I wanted this book to be more fun for parents to read 700 times. So there's a glossary of all of the symbology that you find in the book in the back, so that each time you read it, you can pick 1 or 2 things and tell your kids a little bit more about, oh, this means this. This particular symbol makes us think about, or you can just say, do you see the owl in that tree? Do you know how much wisdom there is? You have a lot of wisdom too for making change. You just don't know it yet. So there are suggestions for how to expand your storytelling with your children. And right now, our kids need that. Just like we need to sit down and have coffee with one another, our children need to be held and close to us. And storytelling is a really good way to do that.
I'm picking that up today for sure. That sounds amazing. So I want to thank Ariana Platten for joining us this morning and for just a gorgeous discussion about change that we can come back to time after time and pick up all those beautiful tools. You've been enjoying the Mystic Nerd Squad podcast, candid conversations for the curious. If you found value in this podcast, please follow, like, and share. And if you have a moment to spare, go ahead and give us a review. If you'd like to know more about me, head over to beingwellwithkelly.com. Be well and follow your curiosity. You never know where it may lead you. Thank you.